Before we begin, if you're enjoying these true stories from law enforcement, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It really helps us continue bringing you these unsettling accounts. And I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Drop your location in the comments below. Now, let's get into tonight's story. My name is Mark Wayne, and I was a California State Trooper for 12 years before everything changed. This isn't the kind of story you'll find in any official report. This isn't the kind of story they want you to know about. But it happened, every single word of it, and I need to tell someone before I lose my mind completely. It started on a Tuesday night in October of 1994. I was working the graveyard shift on Highway 395, that long stretch of asphalt that cuts through the high desert between the Sierra Nevada and the Nevada border. If you've ever driven it, you know what I'm talking about. Mile after mile of nothing but sagebrush, Joshua trees, and darkness so complete it feels like you're driving through space itself. I'd been on the force for 8 years by then, and the night shift was my preference. During the day, Highway 395 could be busy with tourists heading to Mammoth or through traffic avoiding Interstate 15. But at night, especially on a Tuesday in October, you might go hours without seeing another vehicle. It gave me time to think, time to clear my head from the chaos of my home life. My wife Jennifer and I had been going through a rough patch. Our daughter Emma was 6 years old and had started having nightmares. Bad ones. The kind where she'd wake up screaming about the man in her closet who wore Daddy's face but wasn't Daddy. Kids have nightmares. I knew that. But something about the way she described it, the specificity of her fear, made my skin crawl. Jennifer thought I was working too much, that Emma was acting out because I was never home. Maybe she was right. That's why I'd taken the night shift in the first place, to avoid the arguments, to avoid seeing the disappointment in Jennifer's eyes every time I walked through the door. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about that Tuesday night. I'd started my shift at 10 p.m., signing out Unit Charlie 19 and doing my usual equipment check. Radio working, radar gun calibrated, first aid kit stocked, shotgun secured, everything by the book. I pulled out of the station in Bishop just before 10:30, heading south on 395. The night was clear, temperature dropping fast the way it does in the high desert. My thermos was full of coffee, my clipboard had fresh paper, and I had 8 hours of patrol ahead of me. The first few hours were routine. I pulled over a semi-truck for a broken taillight around midnight, gave the driver a warning, ran radar on a few speeders but nothing worth pursuing. Around 1:30 a.m., I stopped at a turnout near Big Pine to do some paperwork and finish my coffee. The silence out there was absolute. No wind, no traffic, just the tick of my engine cooling and the scratch of my pen on paper. That's when I saw the first car. Headlights appeared in my rearview mirror, coming from the south. A sedan moving at a reasonable speed. It passed my position without slowing, and something about it caught my attention. Maybe it was cop instinct, maybe it was just boredom. But I pulled out and fell in behind it. The vehicle was a late 80s Honda Accord, dark blue or black, hard to tell in the darkness. The license plate was clearly visible in my headlights, 4XRJ829. I ran the plate through dispatch. Clean. Registered to a David Morrison in Ridgecrest. No wants, no warrants. The car maintained exactly 55 miles per hour, right at the speed limit. Textbook driving. Still, something felt off. The way the car moved, perfectly centered in the lane, no drift, no correction. Like it was on rails. I followed for another 10 miles and the car never deviated, not once. Same speed, same lane position. No turn signals because it never changed lanes. Finally, I decided to pull it over. Maybe the driver was tired, maybe drunk and overcompensating. Either way, it was worth a check. I hit my lights and siren. The car immediately signaled right and pulled onto the shoulder, coming to a smooth stop. Everything about it was textbook. I called it in to dispatch. Charlie, 19 to dispatch, traffic stop, Highway 395 northbound, mile marker 187, California plate, 4X-ray, Robert John 829. Copy, Charlie 19, 0214 hours. I approached the driver's side window, flashlight in my left hand, right hand resting on my service weapon. Standard procedure. The window was already rolling down as I reached it. The driver was a woman, maybe 40, with short dark hair and pale skin. She stared straight ahead, both hands on the wheel at 10 and 2. She didn't turn to look at me. "Good evening, ma'am," I said. "License and registration, please." She didn't respond, didn't move, just kept staring straight ahead. "Ma'am, I need to see your license and registration." Still nothing. Her eyes didn't blink. Her chest didn't rise and fall. For a horrible moment I thought she might be dead, but her hands were gripping the wheel with clear tension. She was aware, just not responding. I keyed my radio. "Charlie 19, show me code 6 at this location, driver non-responsive, requesting backup." "Copy, Charlie 19, nearest unit is 40 minutes out, advise 40 minutes, of course. That was the reality of night patrol in the high desert. You were on your own. I tried again. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle." This time, she moved. Slowly, mechanically, her left hand released the wheel and reached for the door handle. She opened the door and stepped out, and I backed up to give her space. She stood there in the glare of my spotlight, still not looking at me, still staring at some fixed point in the distance. She was wearing a white blouse and dark slacks. Business casual, no jewelry, no obvious signs of intoxication or injury, but her skin had an odd quality to it, almost waxy in the artificial light. "Ma'am, have you been drinking tonight?" No response. "Are you on any medications?" Nothing. "Can you tell me your name?" She opened her mouth. For a second, I thought she was going to answer. Instead, she made a sound. Not a word, not a scream, just a sustained tone. A single note, like a dial tone, coming from her open mouth. It went on for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds without her taking a breath. Then she closed her mouth, got back in her car, closed the door, and sat there with her hands at 10 and 2, staring straight ahead. I stood there in the dark, hand on my weapon, trying to process what I'd just witnessed. My radio crackled. "Charlie 19, what's your status?" "Dispatch, I stand by." I needed to make a decision. I could arrest her, force the situation. But for what? Failing to produce a license? Making weird noises? My instincts were screaming that something was very wrong here, but I couldn't articulate what. And backup was still 35 minutes away. I walked back to my unit, keeping my eyes on the Honda. The woman hadn't moved. I grabbed my ticket book, wrote her a citation for failure to produce license and registration, and brought it to her window. "Ma'am, I'm issuing you a citation. You'll need to appear in court on the date listed. Do you understand?" She didn't take the ticket, didn't acknowledge me at all. I placed it on her dashboard through the window, stepped back, and waved her on. She started the car, signaled left, merged smoothly back onto the highway and drove away at exactly 55 miles per hour, disappearing into the darkness to the north. I stood there watching her taillights fade, that sick feeling in my gut getting stronger. Something was very, very wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on what. I got back in my unit and continued south, trying to shake off the encounter. Maybe she'd been in shock. Maybe she'd just witnessed something traumatic and was dissociating. I'd seen stranger things in 12 years of police work, or so I thought. An hour later, around 3:30 a.m., I was approaching the town of Independence when I saw another car. Same make, same model, same color, same license plate. 4XRJ 829. I blinked, checked my speedometer, checked my mirrors. It was traveling south, the opposite direction, passing me in the northbound lane. I caught a glimpse of the driver as we passed. A woman, dark hair, pale skin, hands at 10 and 2. I immediately hit my brakes and started a U-turn, but by the time I got turned around, the car was gone. Just darkness and empty highway. I accelerated to 80, then 90, but there was nothing. No taillights, no car, nothing. I grabbed my radio. Dispatch, Charlie 19. Did you copy that southbound Honda Accord? Same plate as my previous stop. Negative, Charlie 19. Please repeat. The vehicle I stopped an hour ago, plate 4X-ray Robert John 829, just passed me heading south. There was a pause. Charlie 19, that vehicle is showing northbound on our system. Last known position mile marker 201. Negative, dispatch. I just saw it heading south. Another pause, longer this time. Charlie 19, are you feeling all right? Do you need to return to station? I closed my eyes, took a breath. They thought I was seeing things. Maybe I was. Maybe the weird encounter had gotten to me more than I realized. Charlie 19, I'm fine. Continuing patrol. Copy that. Let us know if you need anything. I continued driving north, my mind racing. There had to be an explanation. Maybe it was a different car, different plate, and I just misread it in the dark. Maybe I was more tired than I thought, but I knew what I'd seen. Same car, same plate, same driver. I reached Bishop as the sky was starting to lighten, around 6 a.m. I stopped at a gas station to refuel and get some coffee, trying to shake off the weirdness of the night. The clerk was a kid, maybe 19, with headphones around his neck and a skateboard magazine on the counter. "Quiet night?" he asked, as I paid for the coffee. You could say that. Better than excitement, right? My cousin's a cop in L.A. Tells me stories that'll keep you up at night. I smiled and nodded, but I was thinking about the woman in the Honda, the way she'd made that sound, the way she hadn't blinked. As I walked back to my unit, I saw it. The Honda Accord. Same car, same plate. 4XRJ829. It was parked at the far end of the gas station lot, near the air pump. The engine was running. I could see the exhaust vapor in the cold morning air. I approached slowly, hand near my weapon. As I got closer, I could see there were 2 people in the car. The driver was the woman from before. Same position, same posture. But now there was a passenger, a man, maybe 30, wearing a business suit. He was sitting in the same position as the driver, hands in his lap, staring straight ahead, not moving. I tapped on the driver's window. Neither of them reacted. I tried the door handle, unlocked. I opened the door and immediately smelled it. Not gasoline, not exhaust, something else. Something chemical and wrong, like ozone and burnt plastic. "Ma'am, sir, I need you both to step out of the vehicle." Nothing. I reached in and touched the woman's shoulder. Her skin was cold through the fabric of her blouse. Too cold. I pulled my hand back. That's when I noticed something on the dashboard, wedged under the windshield wiper on the inside. It was my citation, the one I'd given her hours ago, over 100 miles to the south. But it wasn't just my citation. There were 2 more underneath it. Same handwriting, same format, same citation number. All 3 were identical, but the paper quality was slightly different. The middle one looked older, yellowed. The bottom one looked newer, almost glossy. I took a step back from the car, my heart pounding. I grabbed my radio. "Dispatch, Charlie 19. I need backup at the Union 76 station in Bishop. I've got a 10 to 15 situation. 2 subjects non-responsive in vehicle." "Copy, Charlie 19, unit en route, ETA 20 minutes. 20 minutes. I could handle 20 minutes. I walked around the car, examining it from every angle. No damage, no identifying marks beyond the plate. The interior was clean, almost sterile. The only unusual thing was a faint shimmer in the air above the hood, like heat waves, but the morning was cold. I was about to check the trunk when I saw something that made my blood run cold. In the driver's side mirror, I could see the gas station behind me. But it was different. The sign was older, the layout wrong, and my unit, my patrol car sitting at the pump 20 yards away, wasn't there. Instead, there was a different patrol car. Same model, but an older paint scheme, the kind we'd used back in the 70s. I spun around. My car was there, right where I'd left it. The gas station looked normal. I looked back at the mirror, still showing the different version. I reached for the mirror to adjust it, and that's when both subjects in the car turned their heads in perfect synchronization and looked at me. Their eyes were black, not the pupils, the entire eye. Black like empty space, like holes in reality. They opened their mouths simultaneously, and that same tone came out. But now it was in harmony, 2 notes creating a chord that made my teeth ache and my vision blur. I stumbled backward, nearly falling. The tone got louder, and I could feel it in my chest, in my bones, vibrating through me. The air around the car started to shimmer more intensely, and the car itself seemed to become less solid, like I was looking at it through water. I ran. I'm not proud of it, but I ran. I made it to my unit, got inside, and locked the doors. Through my windshield, I could see the Honda was solid again. The shimmer was gone. But now the car was facing a different direction. It had been pointing north. Now it was pointing west, toward the mountains. And there were 3 people inside. The woman, the man, and now someone in the back seat. I couldn't make out details from where I was, but I could see the silhouette. My backup arrived 15 minutes later. Officer Tom Reeves, a good cop who'd been on the force for 20 years. He pulled up next to me, and I got out to brief him. "What have we got, Mark?" I pointed to the Honda. 2, maybe 3 subjects, non-responsive. Vehicle matches a stop I made earlier tonight. Something's not right about it. Tom looked at the car, then at me. "You look like hell, Mark. When's the last time you slept?" "I'm fine. Just be careful when you approach." We walked toward the Honda together. As we got closer, Tom slowed down. "You smell that?" he asked. I nodded. The ozone smell was... We reached the car. It was empty. All the doors were closed, windows up. No people, no citations on the dashboard. Just an empty Honda Accord with the engine running and the license plate for XRJ829. Tom tried the doors. Locked. He looked at me. "You said there were people inside?" There were. 2 in front, 1 in back. He walked around the car, peering in the windows. "Mark, there's nobody here. Are you sure you saw..." The car alarm went off. Not the normal car alarm sound, but that tone again. The same note the woman had made, screaming from the car's speakers. Tom jumped back, hand on his weapon. The alarm got louder and louder until it was physically painful. I covered my ears, but it didn't help. The sound was inside my head. Then it stopped. The car engine cut off. The lights went dark. And painted on the inside of the windshield, in something dark and wet, were 3 words: "Wrong shift, wrong shift, wrong shift," written over and over, filling the entire windshield. Tom was on his radio immediately, calling for more backup, calling for a supervisor. I just stood there staring at those words. That's when I noticed something else. Something that made everything else seem insignificant. Sitting on top of the car, perfectly centered on the roof, was a California Highway Patrol badge. My badge. I reached for my shirt. My badge was still there, right where it should be. Tom saw it too. "Mark? What the hell is this?" I didn't have an answer. I didn't have any answers. By the time the sun was fully up, we had 4 patrol units, a supervisor, and a tow truck at the scene. We searched the car top to bottom. Empty. Clean. The writing on the windshield was gone. The badge on the roof was gone. Tom and I both saw it, but there was no physical evidence. The car was registered to David Morrison in Ridgecrest, just like the plate indicated. We called him. He answered on the second ring, confused about why the police were calling. His Honda Accord, plate 4XRJ829, was sitting in his driveway where it had been all night. He sent us a photo to prove it. Same car, same plate. I was sent home with orders to get some sleep. The sergeant suggested I might want to talk to someone, maybe a counselor. The implication was clear. I was seeing things. I was stressed. I was cracking under the pressure. But Tom had seen it too. He backed me up, confirmed the alarm, confirmed the weird smell. But without physical evidence, there was nothing to investigate. I drove home as the morning traffic started picking up. Jennifer was making breakfast when I walked in. Emma was watching cartoons in the living room. "You're home early," Jennifer said, not looking up from the stove. "Long night." "I'm going to get some sleep." "Mark, ... She turned to face me. "Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I almost laughed. A ghost would have been easier to explain. "I'm fine. Just tired. I went upstairs, stripped off my uniform, and fell into bed. I was asleep in minutes, but my dreams were wrong. I was back on Highway 395, driving north, and every car I passed had the same license plate. 4XRJ829. And in every car, the same woman, the same man, the same empty black eyes. In the dream, I looked in my rearview mirror and saw my own face, but my eyes were black too, and my mouth was open, making that tone. I woke up screaming. Jennifer was standing in the doorway, Emma hiding behind her legs. "Daddy?" Emma's voice was small, frightened. I tried to calm my breathing. "I'm okay, sweetheart. Just a bad dream." But Emma was shaking her head. "No, it's not a dream. The man in the closet told me. He said you found the wrong car. He said you weren't supposed to see it yet." The room went cold. "Emma, what man? What are you talking about?" But she just ran from the room, and Jennifer followed her, shooting me a concerned look over her shoulder. I got up and opened my closet. Empty, except for my clothes and shoes. Nothing unusual. But hanging from the rod, on a wire hanger, was a highway patrol uniform. My uniform. But something was wrong with it. The badge number was different. The name tag said Wayne, but the first name wasn't Mark. It said Michael. I don't have a brother. I don't have any siblings. But as I stared at that uniform, I realized something that made my hands shake and my vision blur. I remembered him. Michael Wayne, my older brother. He'd been a highway patrol officer, too. He'd died on Highway 395 in 1987, 7 years ago. Except I'd never had a brother. I was an only child. I'd always been an only child. But now I remembered him. I remembered his funeral. I remembered taking his badge to our mother. I remembered applying to the highway patrol because of him. 2 sets of memories, existing simultaneously in my head. One where I was an only child, and one where I had a brother who died. Both felt equally real. I grabbed my phone and called Tom Reeves. "Tom, do you remember my brother?" Silence on the other end. "Mark, you don't have a brother." "I know, but do you remember one?" "Michael Wayne. Died in 1987. More silence, then, "Jesus, Mark. Yeah, I remember him. I was at his funeral, but you don't have a brother. How am I remembering this?" Neither of us had an answer. I hung up and sat on the edge of my bed, trying to understand what was happening. The car, the woman, the missing time, the duplicate memories. It was all connected somehow, but I couldn't see the pattern yet. My radio crackled from downstairs where I'd left my duty belt. Dispatch was calling for all units. "All units be advised, multiple reports of a Honda Accord. California Plate 4 X-ray. Robert John 829, traveling at high speed on Highway 395. Vehicle reportedly appearing and disappearing. Last seen near Olancha. Approach with extreme caution." I grabbed my phone and called the station. "This is Wayne. I'm coming in. Mark, you're off duty. Get some rest. This is my case. I'm coming in." I got dressed, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. Jennifer tried to stop me, but I didn't have time to explain. I wasn't even sure I could explain. As I got in my personal vehicle and started driving toward Bishop, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Wayne," that tone again. The same sound the woman had made, but now it was coming through my phone. And underneath it, barely audible, a voice. My voice. "Wrong shift. Wrong shift. You're in the wrong shift." The call disconnected. I drove faster, racing toward Highway 395, toward whatever was waiting for me there. Because I was starting to understand. Not completely, not clearly, but enough to be terrified. The woman in the Honda wasn't lost. She wasn't a victim. She was a warning. And whatever I'd seen last night, whatever was happening on Highway 395, I had the horrible feeling it was just beginning. The sun was high in the sky now. Traffic was picking up, and somewhere out on that endless stretch of highway, a dark blue Honda Accord with the license plate 4XRJ829 was driving in impossible directions, carrying impossible people, and leaving a trail of fractured reality in its wake. I was a California state trooper. It was my job to serve and protect. But how do you protect people from something that breaks the laws of reality itself? I was about to find out. I made it to the Bishop station in 40 minutes, breaking every speed limit along the way. Sergeant Robert Crawford was waiting for me in his office, arms crossed, face set in that expression of disappointed authority I'd seen too many times before. "Mark, sit down." I remained standing. "Sarge, about the Honda Accord, the report's coming in. Sit down." I sat. Crawford leaned against his desk, studying me with those sharp gray eyes that had seen 30 years of California highways and probably every kind of cop breakdown imaginable. "Tom Reeves called me. Told me about this morning. About what you both saw or thought you saw. He also told me you called him asking about a brother you don't have. I know how it sounds. Do you? Because it sounds like an officer who's been working too many night shifts, whose home life is falling apart, and who's starting to crack under the pressure. I've seen it before, Mark. Hell, I've been there myself. This is different. Tom saw it too. The car alarm, the smell, Tom saw a car with nobody in it and heard an alarm. That's it. The rest? The people disappearing? The writing on the windshield, the badge on the roof? No physical evidence, no photographs, nothing. I felt my jaw tighten. So you think we're both hallucinating? Crawford sighed and rubbed his temples. I think you're both exhausted and stressed. I think that sometimes when we're stretched too thin, our minds play tricks on us. I'm putting you on administrative leave, effective immediately. 2 weeks, paid. Get some rest, spend time with your family, see the department counselor. What about the reports? The Honda on 395 inches. We've got units covering it. If there's a real situation, we'll handle it. You're too close to this, Mark, too invested. Go home. Sarge, I'm telling you, something is happening out there. Something we don't understand. Enough. His voice was firm, final. Badge and gun. You'll get them back when you're cleared for duty. My hand went automatically to my badge, and I felt that strange doubling sensation again. For just a moment, I could see two versions of this room. In one, I was handing over my badge. In the other, Crawford was lying on the floor, eyes black as holes, making that awful tone. I blinked, and it was gone. Crawford was staring at me, concerned. Mark? I unclipped my badge and placed it on his desk, then did the same with my service weapon. The weight of losing them felt like losing a part of myself. 2 weeks, Crawford said, his voice softer now. Get your head straight. We need good officers, and you're one of the best. But not like this. I left his office and walked through the station, feeling the eyes of other officers on me. Tom Reeves caught up with me at the parking lot. Mark, wait. I turned. Tom looked as rough as I felt, dark circles under his eyes, a nervous energy in his movements. Tell me I'm not crazy, Tom. You're not crazy. He glanced back at the station, then lowered his voice. I went home after my shift, tried to sleep. Couldn't. So I started going through old files, records from Highway 395. Mark, there's a pattern. What kind of pattern? Every 7 years, going back to 1952, clusters of weird reports, strange vehicles, officers seeing impossible things, disappearances, all centered on Highway 395, all happening in October. The pieces were starting to fit together in a way that made my skin crawl. 1987, that's when my brother died. The brother you don't have. The brother I remember having. Tom pulled out a folded paper from his jacket pocket and handed it to me. It was a photocopy of an old incident report, dated October 15th, 1987. The reporting officer was listed as Michael Wayne, California Highway Patrol. My brother who never existed. The report detailed a traffic stop of a Honda Accord, license plate 4XRJ829. The driver was non-responsive. The vehicle displayed unusual properties. The final line of the report made my blood run cold. Officer requesting immediate backup. Situation escalating. Send all available units to mile marker 187. That was the last official communication from Michael Wayne. He was found 3 days later in his patrol car, parked on the shoulder of Highway 395. The car was locked from the inside. Michael was behind the wheel, hands at 10 and 2, eyes open, staring straight ahead. Dead. The autopsy couldn't determine cause of death. No heart attack, no stroke, no injuries. It was as if he'd just stopped living, except I never had a brother named Michael. I was an only child. But now I had memories of him that felt as real as any other memory. His laugh, the way he'd taught me to throw a baseball, his funeral, my mother crying. How many of us remember him? I asked Tom. I asked around quietly. 3 other officers. We all remember Michael Wayne. We all remember his death. But when we check the records, he doesn't exist. There's no birth certificate, no employment records, no death certificate. Nothing. But this report is the only document in the system that mentions him. I found it in an archived file box in the basement. It shouldn't exist, Mark, but here it is. I stared at the photocopy, at my brother's handwriting, at his badge number. What happened to him? What's happening to us? I don't know, but I think the answer's on Highway 395, and I think it has something to do with mile marker 187. That's where I'd made my first stop, where I'd encountered the woman in the Honda. "I'm on administrative leave," I said. "Crawford took my badge. I'm not." Tom met my eyes. "I'm scheduled for night shift tonight. Come with me. Civilian ride-along. We'll figure this out together." I should have said no. I should have gone home to Jennifer and Emma, should have taken the counselor's number Crawford had given me, should have let it go. But I couldn't, because somewhere in the fractured memories filling my head, I could see Michael in his patrol car, hands at 10 and 2, eyes black as empty space, and I knew that whatever had killed him was still out there. "What time do you start?" "10 p.m. Meet me here at 9:30. I nodded and drove home, my mind racing with impossible memories and the growing certainty that reality itself was breaking down around me. Jennifer was waiting when I got there, arms crossed in the kitchen doorway. Emma was at school. "They called," she said. "Crawford. Told me you're on leave. Told me you're seeing things." "Jen, are you?" Because Emma's been saying things too. About the man in her closet. About the wrong house. About how sometimes Daddy's face looks like a mask. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "What do you mean, the wrong house?" Jennifer's expression shifted from anger to fear. She says sometimes when she wakes up, the house is wrong. The furniture is different, the pictures on the walls. She says it's like living in two houses at the same time. The doubling, it wasn't just me. Emma was seeing it too. Has she said anything else? Jennifer hesitated. She drew a picture. In school yesterday. Her teacher called me about it. She led me upstairs to Emma's room and showed me a piece of construction paper covered in crayon drawings. At first, it looked like typical kid art, stick figures and houses. But as I looked closer, I saw the details that must have alarmed the teacher. Emma had drawn our house. But she'd drawn it twice, overlapping, with two versions of each window, two doors, two roofs. In one version, stick figures stood in the windows, smiling. In the other version, the figures had black circles for faces, and at the bottom of the page in Emma's careful first-grade handwriting, Mile 187. My hands started shaking. "Mark, what's happening to us?" I wanted to lie, to protect her from the impossible reality I was beginning to understand. But I couldn't. "I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out tonight." "No." Jennifer grabbed my arm. "No, you're not going back out there. Whatever's happening, let someone else handle it. Stay here. With us." "I can't." "Jen, if this is what I think it is, if this is connected to my brother, you don't have a brother?" Her voice cracked. "Mark, you're an only child. We've been married for 8 years. I would know if you had a brother. But you remember him, don't you? If you really think about it." "Michael. He was at our wedding. He gave a toast." I watched the color drain from Jennifer's face as the impossible memory surfaced in her mind, too. No, that's not. We didn't. But her eyes said she did remember. She remembered Michael's toast, remembered him dancing with Emma when she was a baby, remembered his funeral. "This is insane," she whispered. "I know, but I have to understand why. I have to know what's happening. And if you end up like him, like this Michael who may or may not have existed, what happens to Emma and me then?" I didn't have an answer for that. I spent the afternoon trying to rest, but sleep wouldn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that Honda Accord, saw the woman with black eyes, saw mile marker 187 glowing in my headlights. At 8 p.m., I kissed Jennifer and Emma goodbye. Emma held on to me tighter than usual. "Daddy, don't go to the wrong place." "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "The man in the closet says there's a right place and a wrong place. He says you keep going to the wrong place. He says if you go there too many times, you won't be able to find your way back. I knelt down to her level. Emma, is the man in the closet right now? She nodded slowly and pointed to her bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and in the darkness beyond I could swear I saw movement. Stay with Mommy, I told her, and walked toward the bedroom. Mark, don't, Jennifer warned, but I was already pushing the door open. Emma's room was dark except for the nightlight shaped like a moon. I flipped on the overhead light. The closet door was open. Inside, hanging among Emma's dresses and jackets, was a California Highway Patrol uniform. Badge number 2487. Name tag, M. Wayne. Michael's uniform. The one he'd been buried in. The one that shouldn't exist. I reached out to touch it, and the fabric felt wrong. Like it existed in multiple states at once, solid and insubstantial simultaneously. A voice behind me. Michael's voice, but wrong somehow. Layered with that awful tone. You should have stayed on the right shift, Mark. I spun around. Nobody there. Just Emma's toys, her bed, her bookshelf. But when I looked back at the closet, there were words carved into the back wall, fresh marks in the wood. Mile marker, 187 October, 1994. Wrong shift. Today's date. Tonight's date. I grabbed the uniform and ran downstairs. Jennifer met me at the bottom. What is that? Call Crawford. Tell him about this. Tell him I was right. Tell him... I stopped. What could I tell him that wouldn't sound insane? Mark, please, don't go. I have to. This ends tonight. I drove to the station, arriving at 9:30 as planned. Tom was waiting in the parking lot, his patrol car already running. You look like you've seen a ghost, he said. Maybe I have. I showed him the uniform. This was in Emma's closet. Michael's uniform, with today's date carved into the wall. Tom's face went pale. Mark, maybe this is a sign. Maybe we should let this go. We can't. You know we can't. Whatever's happening, it's accelerating. Emma's seeing it. Jennifer's starting to remember things that didn't happen. If we don't stop it tonight, it's going to spread. Tom nodded slowly. Okay, but we do this smart. We document everything. Body cameras, dash cam, the works. Whatever we find, we make sure there's proof this time. We headed south on Highway 395, the familiar route I'd driven hundreds of times. But tonight, everything looked slightly off. The mile markers seemed to be in the wrong places. Towns appeared where they shouldn't be. The road itself seemed to curve in impossible ways. Are you seeing this? Tom asked, gripping the steering wheel tighter. Yeah, it's getting worse. We passed mile marker 200, then 199, then 198. The numbers counting down toward 187, toward whatever was waiting for us there. Tom's radio crackled. All units, be advised, multiple 911 calls reporting a Honda Accord on Highway 395, driving in both directions simultaneously. Witnesses report the vehicle is flickering, like a bad television signal. This is Charlie 17, Tom responded. We're approaching the area now. What's our current count on similar reports tonight? 17, Charlie 17, all within the last hour, all describing the same vehicle, same plate number. 17. 7 plus 10. 7 times 7. The numbers felt significant somehow. We crested a hill, and there in the valley below we could see them. Not one Honda Accord. 7 of them. All identical, all with the same license plate, all driving in formation down Highway 395. Some heading north, some heading south, some appearing to drive through each other like ghosts. Jesus Christ, Tom whispered. He pulled over at mile marker 190, and we sat there watching the impossible parade of vehicles. Through our windshield, reality seemed to shimmer and fracture. I could see multiple versions of the highway overlapping, like looking through layers of translucent film. In one layer, it was night, current time. In another, it was day. In another, the highway was older, the paint faded. In another, the highway didn't exist at all, just empty desert. "Tom, look at your dash cam." He checked the monitor. The camera was recording, but what it showed was different from what we were seeing with our eyes. On the screen, Highway 395 was empty. No cars, no phenomenon, nothing unusual. "It's not real," Tom said. "Or we're not real. Or something." "No, it's real. We're just seeing something we're not supposed to see. We're seeing between." "Between what?" "Between shifts. Between realities." That's what Michael's report said. Wrong shift. We're in the wrong shift. One of the Honda Accords broke formation and headed directly toward us. Tom instinctively reached for the gear shift, but I put my hand on his arm. "Wait." The car drove straight at us, not slowing. 50 yards, 40, 30. I could see the driver now. The woman from my first stop, but wrong. Her face was flickering between different versions, different ages, different expressions. Young, old, alive, dead, human, something else. 20 yards, 10. The car passed through us. Not around us, through us. I felt it as it happened, a sensation like being turned inside out, like every atom of my body was being read and rewritten. For a moment I could see everything, every version of Highway 395, every reality stacked on top of each other, every possible outcome of every possible choice. I saw Michael, my brother who never existed, in his patrol car at mile marker 187. I saw him reach for his radio. I saw him encounter the woman in the Honda. I saw him understand, too late, what he was seeing. I saw his reality fracture. Saw him slip between shifts. Saw him try to call for help. But his voice came out as that tone, that awful, resonant tone that meant his vocal cords were vibrating in multiple realities at once. I saw him die. Saw his consciousness fragment across 7 different versions of the same moment, none of them quite able to fully exist, all of them trapped in the between. And I saw that it was happening to me too, that every time I encountered the Honda, every time I saw the impossible, I was slipping further between shifts. Soon I'd be like Michael, like the woman in the car, existing in multiple realities at once, unable to fully exist in any of them. The sensation passed. Tom and I were still in the patrol car, but now we were at mile marker 187. We hadn't driven there. We'd simply arrived, as if the 7 miles between had never existed. "Mark," Tom's voice was shaking. "The mile markers. They're wrong." I looked out the window. He was right. We were at mile marker 187, but the next marker north was 201, and the one south was 174. The numbers didn't follow any logical sequence. 13 mile markers were missing. 13 miles of highway that no longer existed, or existed somewhere else, or existed in all places at once. "The missing miles," I said. Michael's report mentioned them. He'd found the missing miles. Tom checked his GPS. According to the satellite, we were exactly where we should be, between mile markers 190 and 191. But the physical markers said otherwise. "We're in the between," I said. "This is where the shifts overlap. This is where reality breaks down." All 7 Honda Accords had converged on our position now, parked in a circle around us, engines running. In each car, I could see drivers, different people, different ages, but all with the same empty black eyes. Tom's hand moved to his service weapon. What do we do? Before I could answer, every car door opened simultaneously. The drivers stepped out, moving in perfect synchronization. They surrounded our vehicle, standing motionless in the glare of our headlights. The woman from my first stop was directly in front of us. She opened her mouth and that tone came out, but this time I could hear words underneath it. Wrong shift. Wrong shift, wrong shift. You're in the wrong shift. Go back. Before you forget which one is real. Before you become like us. Between. Always between. Never fully here. Never fully there. Wrong shift. Wrong shift. She pressed her hand against our windshield, and where she touched, the glass began to fracture. Not breaking, but splitting into layers, showing multiple versions of the glass existing simultaneously. I could see through those layers now. In one, Tom and I sat in the patrol car, watching the impossible scene. In another, the patrol car was empty. In another, there were different officers inside. In another, the car was burning. In another, it had never been there at all. Mark. Tom's voice seemed to come from very far away. I can see myself. Multiple versions. Which one is real? Which one is me? I looked at him and saw what he meant. Tom was sitting in the driver's seat, but I could also see overlapping versions of him. In one, he was younger, just out of the academy. In one, he was old, retired. In one, he was dead, eyes black like the woman's. In one, he'd never been a cop at all. All of them, I said, though I wasn't sure if that was true. None of them, I don't know. The woman pulled her hand away from the windshield, leaving behind a handprint that existed in 7 different states of decay at once. Fresh, old, ancient, not there at all. The drivers began to walk away, back to their vehicles, but before they got in, they all turned to face us one final time. 7 voices, speaking in unison, creating harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. October 17th, 1994. Mile marker 187. This is where Michael Wayne died. This is where Mark Wayne will die. This is where the shift happens. This is where you choose. Go back or stay between forever. They got in their cars. All 7 vehicles started to fade, becoming translucent, then disappearing completely. We were alone at mile marker 187, and the missing miles in the between. Tom's dash cam was still recording. I leaned forward to check the playback. The screen showed us sitting in an empty patrol car, talking to nobody, staring at an empty highway. No Honda Accords, no drivers, no impossible fractures in reality, just 2 cops losing their minds in the darkness. Tom, we need to get out of here now. He put the car in drive, but before he could accelerate, my phone rang. Jennifer's number. I answered. Jen? That tone again. But this time it was Jennifer's voice underneath, fractured and distant. Mark, where are you? You've been gone for 3 days. Emma won't stop crying. The man in the closet is getting stronger. He looks more like you every time I see him. Please come home. Please come back to the right shift. I checked my watch. 10:47 p.m. We'd left the station at 9:30, just over an hour ago. Jen, I left 90 minutes ago. What do you mean, 3 days? Mark, it's October 20th. You left on the 17th. Where have you been? I looked at Tom. His radio was going crazy now, multiple voices overlapping, dispatch trying to reach us. Charlie 17, what's your location? You missed 3 shift reports. Sergeant Crawford is looking for you. Where the hell have you been? 3 days. We'd been in the missing miles for 3 days, but it had felt like minutes. Time worked differently in the between. Tom hit the gas and we accelerated north, trying to get away from mile marker 187. But as we drove, I watched the mile markers passing. 188, 189, 190, then suddenly back to 187. We were looping, trapped in the missing miles. "It won't let us leave," Tom said, panic creeping into his voice. "Mark, it won't let us leave." I saw movement in the rearview mirror. Behind us, 7 patrol cars were following in formation, maintaining perfect spacing. In each car, I could see an officer, and in one of them, I saw myself. Older, eyes black, hands at 10 and 2, making that awful tone. That was my future. Trapped between shifts, existing in multiple realities at once, losing pieces of myself with each loop until there was nothing left but the tone and the empty eyes and the endless drive through the missing miles. Unless I could find a way back to the right shift. Unless I could figure out what Michael had tried to do before he died. Unless I could understand the pattern. 7 years. 7 vehicles. 7 versions. 7 patrol cars following us now. The number 7 over and over. And then I remembered something from the old reports Tom had shown me. The first incident in 1952. 7 people had disappeared from Highway 395. 7 people, all on October 17th, all near mile marker 187. Every 7 years since then, more disappearances, more fractures, more people slipping between shifts. This was the 7th cycle. 1952, 1959, 1966, 1973, 1980, 1987, 1994. Michael had died in 1987, the 6th cycle. This was the 7th, the final one. After tonight, either the pattern would break, or it would lock into place forever, and the missing miles would spread. 13 miles would become 20, then 30, then 50, until eventually all of Highway 395 existed in the between, and everyone who drove it would slip between shifts, fracturing reality further and further until there was no reality left at all. Just endless variations, endless possibilities, and no way to tell which one was real. I had to stop it, but I didn't know how. Tom was hyperventilating now, his hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel as we passed mile marker 187 for the 5th time. "Mark, I can't do this. I can't keep driving in circles. I need to get out. The patrol cars behind us were getting closer. I could see the officers more clearly now. 7 versions of me, 7 versions of Tom, 7 versions of Michael, all existing simultaneously, all trapped between shifts. One of them was speaking, and I could hear him through the radio, through multiple realities at once. "You can't escape. You're already between. The moment you saw the Honda, you started to fracture. Every encounter pulls you deeper. Soon you'll be like us. Soon you'll be everywhere and nowhere. Soon you won't remember which reality is home." Tom looked at me, and I saw the fear in his eyes. But underneath the fear, I saw something else, the beginning of fracture. I could see multiple versions of him starting to overlay, just like I'd seen in the windshield fractures. And when I looked down at my own hands, I saw them too. Multiple versions slightly out of sync, existing in different positions at once. We were running out of time. The patrol cars behind us were catching up, and ahead, parked exactly at mile marker 187, was the Honda Accord. One final time. The woman was standing beside it, waiting. Tom slowed the car, and we stopped 20 feet away. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then the woman walked toward us, and with each step she became clearer, more solid, more real than anything else in the between. She reached our window. Tom didn't roll it down. She didn't seem to care. Her voice came through anyway, clear and distinct, no longer distorted by that awful tone. "Your brother understood," at the end. Before he fractured completely, he understood that the missing miles aren't missing at all. They're here, stacked on top of each other, every version existing simultaneously. He understood that the shifts aren't different realities. They're the same reality, seen from different times. "What are you?" I managed to ask. "A warning. A victim. A choice. I'm what happens when someone stays between too long. I'm every version of myself that ever drove Highway 395, collapsed into one. I exist in all times, all places, all shifts. And soon you will too, unless you choose. Choose what? Which version is real? Which shift is home? Your brother couldn't choose. He saw all the possibilities, all the versions of his life, and he couldn't decide which one to hold on to. So he fractured, and now he exists in all of them, fully present in none." She pointed behind us to the 7 patrol cars. I could see Michael in one of them now, clear as day. My brother, the one who died 7 years ago, the one who never existed. He was looking at me, and in his eyes, I saw recognition. I saw regret. I saw a warning. Choose, Mark. Before it's too late. Choose which reality is yours, and hold on to it with everything you have. Forget the others, let them go, or you'll end up like me, like him, between forever. The woman walked back to her Honda Accord, got in, and drove away. This time, she didn't disappear. She simply drove north, out of the missing miles, back into regular Highway 395. She'd made her choice. Somehow, she'd found her way back to a single reality. Now it was my turn. I looked at Tom. We have to choose. Right now. Which version of this night is real? The one where we left 90 minutes ago, or the one where it's been 3 days? I don't know, Mark. I don't know which one is real anymore. Neither do I. But we have to pick one and believe it, completely. No doubt. In the distance, I heard sirens. Real sirens, not the fractured multi-reality versions. They were coming from the north, from the regular highway. Backup was coming. In one reality, they were looking for us because we'd been gone for 3 days. In another, they were responding to our call about the Honda Accord from 90 minutes ago. 2 possibilities. 2 shifts. 2 versions of tonight. I had to choose. I closed my eyes and thought about Jennifer, about Emma, about which version of them was waiting at home. I thought about my house, my life, my reality. I thought about Michael's funeral, but also about being an only child. Both memories were there, equally real, equally false. I had to let one go. I opened my eyes. It's been 90 minutes. That's the reality I choose. We left at 9:30. It's now just after 10:40. That's what's real. Tom nodded slowly. Okay, yeah. 90 minutes. 3 days is wrong. That's the fracture trying to pull us in. We've been here 90 minutes. The patrol cars behind us started to fade. The fractured versions of mile marker 187 began to merge, collapsing back into a single point. We were choosing our reality, and the between was letting us go. The sirens got louder. Real backup, coming from the real world, responding to our real call from 90 minutes ago. Tom put the car in drive and headed north, away from mile marker 187, away from the missing miles, away from the between. We passed mile marker 188, then 189, then 190. The numbers were in the right order now, sequential, real. We'd made it back. 3 patrol cars met us at mile marker 195. Sergeant Crawford was in the lead vehicle, and he did not look happy. "Where the hell have you been?" he demanded as we got out. "You called in at 10 to 15 2 hours ago and then went dark. No radio response, no updates, nothing. 2 hours, Not 90 minutes, not 3 days. 2 hours. We'd been in the between longer than I'd thought. Time was still fractured, still uncertain, but we were back, and that's what mattered. We were investigating the Honda Accord reports, Tom explained. Got turned around in the dark. Lost track of time. Crawford studied us both with those sharp eyes. You look like you've aged 10 years. What really happened out there? I opened my mouth to answer, but found I couldn't explain it. How do you describe reality fracturing? How do you explain being caught between shifts? How do you tell your sergeant that you've been driving through missing miles that exist in 7 places at once? Nothing, sir. Just a long night. Crawford didn't believe me. I could see it in his face. But he also didn't push. Maybe he knew there were some things on Highway 395 that defied explanation. Maybe he'd had his own experiences with the between. Get back to the station. Write up your reports. And Mark, Tom, you're both done for the night. Hell, you're both done for the week. Take some time. Process whatever the hell happened out here. We drove back to Bishop in silence. The sun was starting to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. Normal colors, normal light, normal reality. I checked my phone. 6:15 a.m. 7 hours since we'd left the station. 7 hours, not 90 minutes, not 3 days, not 2 hours. 7 hours had passed in the real world. There was a voicemail from Jennifer. I listened to it on speaker so Tom could hear. Mark, it's 5 a.m. You said you'd be home by 3. I'm worried. Call me when you get this. I love you. 5 a.m. She'd called 2 hours ago. Worried because I was late, but not panicked because I'd been gone for days. This was the right shift. This was real. When I got home, Jennifer was asleep on the couch, still in her clothes from yesterday. Emma was asleep in her room. Everything was where it should be, when it should be, how it should be. I checked Emma's closet. No highway patrol uniform, no carved words in the wall, just her dresses and jackets and toys. I went back downstairs and gently woke Jennifer. I'm home, I said. She looked up at me with sleep-blurred eyes. What time is it? 6:30. I'm sorry I'm late. Are you okay? Did something happen? I wanted to tell her everything. About the Honda Accord, about the missing miles, about Michael, about the choice I'd made to hold on to this reality and let the others go. But I couldn't. Because part of staying in one reality meant not acknowledging the others. Meant acting like they never existed. Just a long shift, I said. But I'm home now. She hugged me, and for a moment I felt completely solid, completely real, completely present in a single reality. But in the back of my mind I could still hear it. Faint, distant, barely audible, but there. That tone, coming from Emma's room, coming from the closet, coming from somewhere between. I should have stayed away from Highway 395. Crawford had given me 2 weeks' leave. Jennifer had begged me to let it go, and every rational part of my brain knew that returning to the missing miles would only pull me deeper into the between. But I couldn't stop, because every night I heard that tone coming from Emma's closet. And every morning I found new things that shouldn't exist. On day 3 of my leave, I found a second patrol car key in my pocket. Same model as my unit, same key fob, but when I checked the tag, it had a different unit number. Charlie 23. I'd never driven Charlie 23. According to station records, Charlie 23 had been decommissioned in 1989. On day 5, I woke up with a scar on my left forearm that hadn't been there the night before. A long surgical scar, perfectly healed, at least several years old. Jennifer saw it and went pale. Mark, you've always had that scar. from the motorcycle accident in 1991. I'd never been in a motorcycle accident, I'd never owned a motorcycle, but when I concentrated, I could remember it. The curve on Highway 395 near mile marker 187. The deer in the road. The hospital, 3 weeks of recovery. A memory that had never happened, now sitting in my head like it had always been there. The between was leaking into my reality. Or I was still partially in the between. I couldn't tell which anymore. Tom called me on day 7. His voice was shaking. I found something. Old maintenance records for Highway 395. There's a facility underneath mile marker 187, built in 1962, classified no current status. Mark, I think that's what's causing this. What kind of facility? I don't know. The records are redacted, but I found a name, Project Crossroads, and a date, October 17th, 1962, the first cycle. That night, I told Jennifer I was going to see a friend. I hated lying to her, but I couldn't explain where I was really going. Tom picked me up 3 blocks from my house and we drove south on 395 toward the missing miles, toward mile marker 187. "This is insane," Tom said as we passed Bishop. "We barely made it out last time. Why are we going back?" "Because it's getting worse. The between is spreading. Soon, it won't just be Highway 395, it'll be everywhere." Tom glanced at me. "You've been seeing things too?" "Every day. Objects that shouldn't exist. Memories that never happened. Yesterday, I found a photograph in my wallet. Me, Jennifer, and Emma. But Emma is 12 in the picture. She's only 6. Future or alternate? I don't know. Both. Neither." We drove in silence until we reached mile marker 190. The air started to shimmer. Tom slowed down. "It's starting," he said. Through the windshield I could see them. Other patrol cars driving alongside us, overlapping with our reality. In some, the officers were older versions of current staff. In others, they wore uniforms from different decades. In one, I saw myself, aged 60, white hair, still driving this same route. "Don't look at them," I told Tom. "Focus on the road. Focus on this reality." But it was hard not to look. Because in one of those cars, I saw Michael, my brother who never existed. He was driving parallel to us, and when our eyes met, he mouthed 2 words. "Turn back." Tom saw him too. "Jesus Christ, Mark, that's—" "I know." We passed mile marker 187. The shimmer intensified, and suddenly we weren't alone on the road anymore. 3 patrol cars pulled up alongside us, perfectly synchronized. Same make, same model, same year, but different unit numbers. The driver of the nearest car gestured for us to pull over. Tom looked at me. "Should we?" "We don't have a choice." We pulled onto the shoulder. The 3 other cars did the same, forming a line behind us. I watched in the mirror as the drivers got out. 3 California Highway Patrol officers. They walked toward us with purposeful strides. Tom and I stepped out to meet them. As they got closer, I felt my stomach drop. I recognized one of them. Officer David Hernandez, my training officer from 10 years ago. Except Hernandez had retired 5 years back and moved to Arizona. The other 2 I didn't know, but their badges said Wayne. M. Wayne and K. Wayne. Michael. I knew, but K. Wayne. Officer Mark Wayne, the one with K. Wayne, said. She was a woman, maybe 35, with my eyes and my father's jaw. "You need to stop investigating the missing miles. Who are you?" "I'm Catherine Wayne, your sister, in the shift where Michael survived and you had a sister instead of a brother." My head spun. That's not possible. Everything's possible in the between, Michael said, stepping forward. Mark, we don't have much time. Every moment you spend near mile marker 187, you fracture further. Soon, you won't be able to distinguish between shifts at all. Why are you here? Why can all of you cross between shifts? Catherine answered. Because we're already fractured. Michael died, but didn't die. He exists in the between permanently. I was investigating the same thing in my reality and got trapped. Hernandez is from a shift where he never retired. We're all caught between, and we're trying to warn others before they end up like us. What's causing it? What's under mile marker 187? They exchanged glances. Michael spoke carefully. In 1962, the government built a research facility beneath this stretch of highway, Project Crossroads. They were experimenting with quantum observation, trying to prove the many worlds interpretation of reality, the theory that every decision creates a branching timeline. They proved it, Catherine continued, but they did more than that. They weakened the barriers between worlds. Here, at mile marker 187, the membrane between realities is thin, and every 7 years, on October 17th, it tears completely. Why October 17th? Because that's the day the facility had its catastrophic failure. October 17th, 1962. The experiment got out of control, and 7 researchers were caught between shifts. They still are. The woman in the Honda Accord? That's Dr. Sarah Chen, the project lead. She's been trying to warn people for 60 years, existing in all times simultaneously. Hernandez pulled out a folded map and spread it on the hood of Tom's car. It showed Highway 395 with detailed markings around mile marker 187. The facility is here, he pointed. 30 feet below the highway. There's an access tunnel hidden behind a maintenance shed half a mile west. We can show you, but Mark, once you go down there, you'll understand everything. And that understanding will fracture you further. You might not make it back. I looked at Tom. He was pale, but determined. We've come this far. The 6 of us drove in convoy to the location Hernandez had indicated. The maintenance shed was old, forgotten, hidden behind a stand of Joshua trees. The lock had rusted through. Inside, beneath a tarp, was a metal hatch with a wheel lock like something from a submarine. Once we open this, Michael said, there's no going back. The knowledge itself is dangerous. It changes how you perceive reality. I'm already fractured, I said. Open it. Michael and Catherine turned the wheel together. The hatch groaned and opened, revealing a ladder descending into darkness. One by one, we climbed down. The air grew colder with each rung, and I could feel that familiar shimmer in the atmosphere. At the bottom, we found ourselves in a concrete corridor lit by flickering fluorescent lights that shouldn't have power after 30 years. The walls were covered in equations and diagrams, all dealing with quantum mechanics and parallel worlds. We followed the corridor to a large chamber. In the center was a machine, still humming with power. It looked like something from a science fiction movie, all chrome and glass and spinning rings. Around it were 7 chairs, and in those chairs 7 skeletons wearing lab coats. The original researchers, Catherine said softly. They're still here, still alive in some shifts, still dead in others caught in superposition. As I stared at the machine, I began to understand. They hadn't just proven the many worlds theory. They'd built a device to observe all worlds simultaneously. But quantum mechanics says observation affects reality. By observing all possible worlds at once, they'd cause them to collapse into this space. The missing miles weren't missing. They were all the versions of those miles existing at once. Tom was reading the equations on the wall. This says the effect is spreading. Growing. It started at 13 miles, but in another year, it'll be 20. In 5 years, 50. In 10 years, all of California. Unless someone shuts it down, Hernandez said. I looked at the machine, still running after 30 years. How? Michael pointed to a red lever on the main console. That's the emergency shutdown. It'll collapse all the parallel observations back into a single reality. But there's a cost. Whoever pulls it has to choose which reality becomes real. All the others will cease to exist. What does that mean for the people in those other realities? They'll be erased. Everyone in every alternate shift around this area will collapse into the chosen reality. Some will survive, changed, some will never have existed. And the person who makes the choice will remember all of them, will carry all those realities in their head. It'll drive most people insane. I felt sick. There has to be another way. Catherine shook her head. We've been looking for one for years, across multiple realities. There isn't. Someone has to choose, or the fracture keeps spreading until all of reality becomes the between. Why can't you do it? You're already fractured, because we don't exist fully in any one reality. We can't make the choice. It has to be someone who's still mostly anchored in a single shift. Someone like you. I looked around the chamber, at the skeletons of researchers who'd paid the ultimate price for their curiosity, at my brother who'd never existed, at my sister from another shift, at my training officer who'd retired or hadn't depending on which reality you asked. What happens to all of you if I choose? Depends on which reality you pick, Michael said. Choose the one where I died and I'm gone. Choose the one where I survived and Catherine never existed. Choose wrong, and Jennifer and Emma might not be waiting for you at home. My phone rang. Jennifer's number. I answered. Mark. Her voice was distant, fractured. Mark, where are you? Emma's getting worse. She's in the closet talking to herself, or to other versions of herself. I can hear multiple voices. Mark, I'm scared. Please come home. I'm coming. I'll fix this. I hung up and stared at the red lever. How do I choose which reality? Michael stepped beside me. You think about the version of your life you want to be real, the one that matters most, and you hold on to it while you pull the lever. The machine will read your quantum state and collapse everything else into that choice. What if I choose wrong? Then you go home to a family that isn't quite yours, a life that isn't quite right, and you spend the rest of your days wondering if the people you love are the real ones, or just echoes of who they should have been. I reached for the lever, then stopped. Tom, you should leave. Get back to the surface. This might not be safe. I'm not leaving you down here. Tom, we're partners. I stay. I nodded, grateful. I gripped the lever and closed my eyes. I thought about Jennifer, about the way she smiled when she thought I wasn't looking, about Emma, about her laugh, about how she held my hand when we crossed the street. I thought about my house, my job, my life, the reality I'd been living, the one I'd chosen to believe in when we escaped the missing miles. That was real. That was home. I pulled the lever. The machine screamed. The spinning rings accelerated, faster and faster, until they blurred into a solid sphere of light. The chamber filled with that tone, the awful, resonant frequency that existed across all realities. I held on to my thoughts, my memories, my chosen reality, even as I felt other versions trying to overlay themselves. I saw 1,000 different versions of this moment. In some, I didn't pull the lever. In some, Tom pulled it instead. In some, Michael stopped me. In some, the machine exploded. In some, nothing happened at all. But I held on. I focused on my reality, my family, my life. The light grew blinding, and then suddenly, everything went dark. I woke up on the surface, lying in the dirt near the maintenance shed. Tom was beside me, unconscious but breathing. The hatch was closed. When I opened it and looked down, the ladder descended into solid concrete. No chamber, no machine, no facility. I checked my phone. 3 hours had passed. It was just after midnight. I called Jennifer. "Mark?" Her voice was clear, solid, real. "Where are you?" "It's late. I'm on my way home. How's Emma?" "She's fine. Sleeping. Why? No nightmares?" "Not tonight. Mark, what's going on?" "Nothing. I'll be home soon. I love you." I helped Tom to his feet. He looked around, disoriented. Did it work?" "I think so." We drove back to Bishop in silence. The highway was normal. No shimmer, no fractured realities, no other patrol cars. Mile marker 187 passed without incident. The missing miles were gone. When I got home, I stood outside for a long moment before going in. This was the reality I'd chosen. But was it really mine? I opened the door. Jennifer was on the couch reading. Emma was asleep upstairs. Everything looked right. I checked Emma's closet. No highway patrol uniform. No carved words. Just her clothes and toys. I lay in bed next to Jennifer, and for the first time in weeks I felt solid, real, present in a single reality. But as I drifted off to sleep, I realized something. In the reality I'd chosen, I never had a brother. Michael never existed. I'd always been an only child. So why could I still remember him? Why could I still see his face, hear his voice, remember our childhood together? The machine had collapsed the realities, but it hadn't erased my memories of them. I carried all those alternate lives in my head now. All those other versions of Mark Wayne, making different choices, living different lives. I knew with absolute certainty that in some of those realities I was still down in that chamber, still pulling that lever, still trying to choose. Caught in the between forever, unable to decide which life was real. But in this reality I'd made it home, and I had to believe that was enough. 2 weeks after I pulled that lever, I returned to duty. Crawford cleared me with the warning to take it easy, see the department counselor, and stay off Highway 395 for a while. I agreed to all three, knowing I'd probably break at least one of those promises. The first few days back were routine. Traffic stops, accident reports, the usual patrol work. Everything felt normal, real, solid. But small things kept nagging at me. Details that didn't quite add up. In my locker at the station, I found a commendation I didn't remember earning. For bravery during a 1991 shooting that I had no memory of. When I asked Tom about it, he looked at me strangely. "Mark, I was there. You saved my life that day, but I didn't remember. In my original reality, that shooting never happened. Yet, here was the commendation, solid and real, hanging in my locker." At home, Jennifer mentioned our 10th anniversary coming up. We'd been married 8 years. I was sure of it. But when I checked our wedding photos, the date said 1984. 10 years ago. "Are you feeling okay?" Jennifer asked when she caught me staring at the album. "You've been distant since you came back from leave." "I'm fine. Just tired." But I wasn't fine. Because every day I found more inconsistencies. More evidence that the reality I'd chosen wasn't quite the one I'd been living in before. Emma's room was painted blue. I distinctly remembered it being yellow. But Jennifer insisted it had always been blue, and the old paint cans in the garage confirmed it. My patrol car was Unit Charlie 19. I'd been driving Charlie 19 for 3 years, but according to the station logs, I'd always driven Charlie 23, the same unit number that had appeared on that impossible key in my pocket weeks ago. I was living in a reality I'd chosen, but it wasn't quite mine. Close, but not exact. Like a copy of a copy where small details had shifted in translation. The worst part was the memories. I could remember my brother Michael's funeral, even though Michael had never existed in this reality. I could remember my sister Catherine, even though I'd always been an only child here. I could remember the 1991 shooting that saved Tom's life, even though my lived experience said it never happened. 2 sets of memories existing simultaneously. One from the reality I'd lived, one from the reality I'd chosen. Tom noticed something was wrong. We were on patrol together, week 3 after the incident, when he finally asked, "You remember it differently, don't you?" The way things were before? Yeah, small things. Dates, colors, events. It's like I'm living in someone else's life. Maybe you are. Maybe when you pulled that lever you didn't choose your original reality. Maybe you chose one that was close, but not exact. How do I know which one is real? How do I know I made the right choice? Tom was quiet for a long moment. Does it matter? If Jennifer and Emma are here, if they're happy, if you're together, does it matter if it's exactly the same reality you started in? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to say it mattered desperately. But I wasn't sure anymore. That night, I woke to find Emma standing beside my bed. In the darkness, her eyes reflected the moonlight coming through the window. "Daddy, you chose wrong." My heart stopped. "Emma, what do you mean?" "The man in the closet told me. You chose the wrong shift. This isn't the right one." I sat up, trying to keep my voice calm. "There's no man in your closet, sweetheart." That was just the between. "It's gone now." She shook her head slowly. "He's still there. He says he'll always be there because you brought him with you. You remember things that didn't happen here, so they're trying to exist. Your memories are making ghosts." I felt cold dread settling into my stomach. "What else did he tell you?" "He says I can see them too now, the other shifts, because I'm your daughter and you're fractured, so I'm a little bit fractured too." She held up her hand, and in the moonlight, I could see it shimmer, overlaying with other versions of itself. Sometimes I can see the mess that didn't happen. The me that's 12, the me that was never born, the me that has a different mommy. "Emma," he says, "if you want to fix it, you have to go back to mile marker 187. You have to choose again, but this time you have to choose nothing." Choose nothing? What does that mean? But Emma just walked back to her room, and when I followed her she was in bed, asleep. Like the conversation had never happened. Or had it? Was that memory real? Or was I fractured enough now that I was experiencing things that weren't happening? I couldn't tell anymore. The next day, I drove to Highway 395. I wasn't supposed to, but I needed to see, needed to know if the between was really gone, or if I'd just chosen to stop seeing it. Mile marker 187 looked normal. Just another piece of highway, nothing special. No shimmer, no fractured realities, no Honda Accord with impossible license plates. I pulled over and got out. Walked to the exact spot where the missing miles had been. The maintenance shed where we'd found the hatch was gone. Not destroyed, just gone, like it had never existed. But as I stood there, I felt it. A faint vibration in the air, a subtle wrongness that made my teeth ache. The between was still there. I'd collapsed the realities, but I hadn't eliminated the weak point. It was just dormant, waiting. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Static, and underneath it, that tone, the quantum frequency that existed across all realities. And then a voice. My voice, but different, older, wearier. Mark. This is you. I'm calling from 2001, 7 years from now. The next cycle. It's happening again. The between is opening. You have to stop it permanently. How? I shut down the machine. You shut down one version of it. But the machine exists in multiple realities, remember? You collapse them, but you didn't destroy them. There are other versions still running, in other shifts you didn't choose. They're keeping the weak point alive. What do I do? You have to go back to the moment of choice. You have to choose nothing. Let the machine destroy itself without imposing a reality on it. Let all the possibilities exist in superposition permanently. It's the only way to seal the breach. But if I do that, what happens to this reality? What happens to Jennifer and Emma? I don't know. Maybe they exist. Maybe they don't. Maybe they exist differently. But if you don't do it, the fracture spreads. In my time, it's reached Los Angeles. Millions of people experiencing random reality shifts. Some remember versions of their lives that never happened. Some forget people who do exist. Society is breaking down because nobody can agree on what's real anymore. There has to be another way. The call disconnected. I stood there at mile marker 187, the sun setting behind the Sierra Nevada, casting long shadows across the highway. 7 years until the next cycle. 7 years to figure out how to permanently seal the breach without erasing the people I loved. Or 7 years to accept that maybe some things can't be fixed. Some choices don't have right answers. Some realities can't be reconciled. I got back in my patrol car and started driving north, back to Bishop, back to the family I'd chosen. Real or not quite real, they were mine now. But as I drove, I saw it in my rearview mirror. A dark blue Honda Accord, license plate 4XRJ829, maintaining perfect distance behind me. The driver was a woman with dark hair and pale skin, hands at 10 and 2. Dr. Sarah Chen. Still warning, still trapped, still existing in all times at once. I sped up. She matched my speed exactly. I changed lanes. She changed lanes. I pulled over. She pulled over, parking 20 feet behind me. I got out and walked toward her car, hand near my weapon, even though I knew it wouldn't matter. You can't shoot a quantum anomaly. As I approached, she rolled down her window. This time, when she opened her mouth, actual words came out, clear and undistorted. You can't save them all, Officer Wayne. Every choice you make erases someone. That's the nature of reality. One possibility means infinite impossibilities. There has to be a way to seal the breach without choosing. There is. But it requires accepting that you can't control which reality survives. You have to let go. Let quantum randomness decide. Accept that the outcome might not include you. I'm willing to risk that. Are you willing to risk them? She gestured to her back seat. I looked and felt my heart stop. Emma was sitting there. But not my 6-year-old Emma. A 12-year-old version, the one from the photograph I'd found. She looked at me with eyes that held knowledge no child should have. This is the Emma from the reality you didn't choose, Dr. Chen said. She exists because you remember her. Your fractured memories are keeping alternate versions alive, creating ghosts in the quantum foam. The more you remember, the more realities try to exist simultaneously, the worse the fracture gets. What do I do? Forget. Let go of the memories that don't belong. Accept this reality completely, or go back and choose nothing, and accept that you might not exist in the result. The 12-year-old Emma leaned forward. "It's okay, Daddy. I'm not real anyway. I'm just a memory that won't die. Let me go." I felt tears on my face. "I don't know how." "Yes, you do. Stop going to mile marker 187. Stop investigating the between. Stop trying to understand. Just live. Be present in this reality, not half present in a dozen others. The ghosts will fade when you stop feeding them with your attention." Dr. Chen started her car. "I'll always be here, Officer Wayne. I'm a permanent fixture of the between, but you don't have to be. Choose to be real, completely real, in one reality only." The Honda drove away, heading south on Highway 395. I watched until the taillights disappeared, then got back in my patrol car and sat there as darkness fell. My radio crackled. Dispatch, calling for Charlie 23, my unit number. Or was it Charlie 19? I couldn't remember anymore. "Charlie 23, what's your location?" I looked at my unit number on the dashboard. Charlie 23. It had always been Charlie 23 in this reality. "Charlie 23 returning to station. 10-8. "Copy that, and Wayne, your wife called. Said to remind you about Emma's piano recital tomorrow at 6. Don't be late." "Piano recital? Emma didn't take piano lessons, did she? Or did she? And I just remembered a reality where she didn't." I drove back to Bishop, the confusion settling into acceptance. This was my reality now. Whatever inconsistencies existed, whatever memories didn't match, this was home. I had to commit to it completely, or I'd fracture further until there was nothing left of me but quantum probability. When I got home, Jennifer met me at the door. "How was patrol?" "Quiet, normal." "Good. Emma's been practicing all week for tomorrow. She's nervous. She'll do great." I went upstairs and looked in Emma's room. She was asleep, her 6-year-old face peaceful. On her desk was sheet music for piano. Apparently she'd been taking lessons for 2 years. I didn't remember any of it, but that was okay. I'd learned to remember. I'd learned to make this reality my reality. I checked her closet before I left. Empty. No uniform, no carved words, no man in the darkness. Just a 6-year-old's clothes and toys and the normal mess of childhood. I closed the door and went to bed next to Jennifer, and for the first time since pulling that lever, I felt at peace. Not because everything was right, but because I'd stopped trying to make it right. I'd stopped trying to reconcile the inconsistencies. I'd accepted that I was living in a reality I'd chosen, even if it wasn't quite the one I'd started in. And that was enough. But that night, I dreamed of Highway 395. I dreamed of mile marker 187, of the missing miles, of the between. I dreamed of Michael and Catherine and Dr. Chen and all the other versions of reality I'd glimpsed. And in the dream, I was back in that chamber, hand on the red lever, forever choosing, forever unable to commit, caught in the moment of decision like Schrödinger's cat, both choosing and not choosing, existing in all states at once. Maybe I'd never left. Maybe I was still there, and this reality was just one of infinite possibilities spinning out from that moment. Maybe every version of me that could exist does exist, each one living in their chosen reality, each one believing they made it home. Or maybe I did make it home, and the dream was just a dream, and mile marker 187 was just another piece of highway, and the between was sealed, and everything was fine. I woke up to morning light and the smell of coffee. Jennifer was already downstairs. Emma was singing in her room. I got up, got dressed in my uniform, checked my badge. Charlie 23. That was my unit. It had always been my unit. I drove to work, passing mile marker 187 without incident. Normal highway, normal morning, normal life. The between was gone. Or I'd stopped seeing it. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. I was California State Trooper Mark Wayne. I had a wife and a daughter. I worked Highway 395, protecting and serving. That was real. That was enough. And if sometimes I remembered a brother who never existed, or found inconsistencies in my memories, or heard that faint tone in the distance, well, that was just the price of having looked too long into the between. Some knowledge can't be forgotten. Some choices leave scars across reality itself. But I was here. I was home. And I'd chosen to believe that was real, even if somewhere in another shift, in another reality, a different Mark Wayne was making a different choice, or pulling that lever again, or still standing in that chamber, unable to choose, trapped between all possibilities forever. But that wasn't me. Not anymore. I'd made my choice. I'd come home. And that was the only reality that mattered, the only one I'd let be real. The rest was just noise in the quantum foam, possibilities that didn't manifest, roads not taken. I was Mark Wayne, California State Trooper, and this was my reality. I had to believe that. I had to. The end.